Live from the 607, it is the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking sports locally and nationally. Why don't you join in the conversation with the hashtag ODPH? Here we go. Welcome to another edition of the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, hashtag ODPH podcast. I am your host, Ken M. Sitting across from me this week is the one, the only, Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
And also joining us in studio, Parlay Points contributor, Nostradogmus, Edwin Fortunato.
How's everybody doing?
Oh, we're doing very, very well, dog. And conspicuous by his absence today is Coach Duffy.
So yeah, he's last I heard he's out searching for Giants ownership's sense of reason.
Yes. As we're going to kick off the show, we definitely want you to join in the conversation on social media. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. We have to break down what was the 3 days of the NFL draft.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we spent last episode breaking down everything about the NFL draft, why it's important, how this can make or break your franchise for years to come. And we have to break down the picks, but especially the New York Giants pick, because Coach definitely had some feelings about that.
I'll say, as everyone knows, I'm a Patriots fan, so I have absolutely no love lost for the New York Giants. You know, I got to admit, it brought joy to my heart when we got out of seeing Avengers Endgame, and it was after the Giants had made that pick, and my entire Facebook newsfeed full of Giants fans was collectively losing their minds.
Right, we're going to get into that pick in just a little bit, but let's break it down from the top, shall we, Pad? Who was taken number one?
Kyler Murray, quarterback from Oklahoma.
Dog, your thoughts on this for Arizona?
We all heard it for months and months, especially since the combine. I had him taking a defensive player, but I think because they hadn't, it was kind of weird because they hadn't traded Rosen until the second of the draft, so I didn't really know what to think. So, but hopefully he'll turn into a franchise quarterback for him.
Pad?
I mean, I did pick Kyler Murray to go number one overall just because the feeling I got, while Josh Rosen is a serviceable quarterback to get put in there and try to win you games, to me, he never struck me as the face of the franchise. The guy that, like, they're willing to do whatever it takes to bring players in and to draft the right players to build a winning team and a championship caliber team. I mean, you know, the 50% off jersey things aside, I was just as an NFL fan and somebody who, like, you know, I don't get in depth with all the rumors and all the news and all of this, but just on the surface, like, looking at it, I'm like, they don't seem sold on the guy. So I think that, but you look at, they were clearly sold on Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I had them taking Nick Bosa at number one. I thought that you could not pass up on a player like Bosa at that position. That if the Arizona wanted to, I mean, sure, they could have gotten Murray maybe a little later in the draft. I mean, like I said, I had them trading with Oakland moving up to number two to go get Murray, because I thought Bosa would be a better fit for what Arizona needed to do. Last year, you traded up to go get Rosen. And basically, you're just saying the last season was a wash completely, and then we're just going to hit the reset button and see what we get here with Murray. Now, is Murray going to be the future answer for them? You better hope so. I mean, this is a lot of uncertainty, especially from a guy that was teetering back and forth if he wanted to really play for the NFL or he wanted to go to Major League Baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with his decision or him, you know, weighing his options. I fully get that. I'm just saying, if I'm the franchise that is selecting him number one overall, I want to make sure he is all in, and this is the guy that's going to lead my team to the Super Bowl down the road. Obviously, it's not going to happen next year. It would take a lot for everything to just be luck and skill, just rising over the occasions to get them over the hump from being the number one team picking to the championship of the Super Bowl.
Right.
So this move makes a lot of sense with a new head coach, but I also have to really puzzle and question it just because you went all in on Rosen last year. So the spotlight is going to be on Murray this year and what they're going to do in Arizona. So they had better hope that they come out of the gate putting up some points early, because I think if they don't, Murray's going to be starting game one. You're going to be hearing a lot of criticism about this pick.
Oh, yeah.
It's without question. Looking at this number two pick, Pad.
It was Nick Bosa, defensive end from the Ohio State University.
Dog?
Well, I had him. I think I had him take Quentin Williams because I thought I had Bosa going to the Cardinals, so 49ers got a good defense, one of the best, probably the best defense players in the draft, and now he gets to chase Kyler Murray around.
Yeah. No, it made sense to me. I think I ended up having Nick Bosa. I picked Nick Bosa to go number 2 to the 49ers. I mean, to me, it makes sense. I mean, you got Jimmy Garoppolo on the offensive side of the ball. They're starting to put some pieces in there on the offensive side. You know, you're not going to get up to me. There were some good names in the offensive side of the ball, but for me, the 49ers really needed to address the defensive side of the ball because, yes, Jimmy Garoppolo is a good quarterback, former New England Patriots guy, so I'm slightly jaded with him. But there's only so much an offense can do. He's not a Drew Brees. He's not an Aaron Rodgers. He's not even a Matthew Stafford who's just going to chuck the ball 50 times and keep you in the game no matter what the score is. 49ers need a defense, and to me, you know, that's at least the start of a defense, and you can form one around Nick Bosa, and it really gives him a good pass rush.
This was a no-brainer. The minute Bosa fell, if the Niners didn't take him, I think they would hear a lot of criticism. Bosa is the best player in the draft. They made the right decision, and especially in a division with Russell Wilson re-upping now, so he's going to be in Seattle for a while. Jared Goff on the rise with the L.A. Rams. And, I mean, Arizona, now you have Murray. You definitely need to get some pressure on the quarterback. Bosa makes perfect sense.
Yep.
And especially, I love the Niners move in the second round with Deebo Samuel. That's a perfect weapon for Garoppolo to throw and really spread the offense out.
Yeah.
So I thought the Niners had a really great draft overall, but especially Landon Bosa at number 2, it fell right in their laps, and they definitely ran with it. Looking at number 3.
Was Quentin Williams, defensive tackle from Alabama.
Dog, your thoughts?
They addressed a good need. Jets are trying to build that defense. I mean, they got a rookie second-year quarterback now, and just they got some other pieces to go with Williams now.
Pat?
I mean, I've had Quentin Williams going to the Jets on 3rd overall just because, like I said, now this is obviously before the Josh Rosen thing, but there are up-and-coming quarterbacks, and there are Hall of Fame quarterbacks in the AFC East. You've got Tom Brady in New England. You've got Josh Rosen, who presumably is going to be starting in Miami, but who's to really say? That could be a quarterback competition waiting to happen. And then you've got Sam Darnold in New York, and then you've got Josh Allen up in Buffalo. What's the one thing you need when all those teams play each other twice a year? You need a good defense. And the Jets, you know, we saw the Jets. Their record last year was not good. I think they were 4-12 last year. Clearly, the defense wasn't doing it for them, so they needed some upgrades.
Yeah, it made perfect sense at this pick. I mean, I had Josh Allen going to them at number 3 on my unofficial draft, but Williams is a perfect dad for him, especially with Le'Veon Bell helping that offense. That was the biggest free agent acquisition they made to give Sam Darnold some help on the offensive side of the ball. They needed to shore up that defense. And like I said, if they're not going to take Allen, Williams is a great compliment for them to fill in that defensive line. So I don't really struggle with this move at all. In fact, as a Bills fan, I'm a little worried about it, but we'll cross that when we start playing them. But a great move for the Jets, nevertheless. Going to number 4, Pat.
Apologies if I butcher this name. It's Clynan Ferrell, defensive end from Clemson.
Dog, your thoughts on this move?
Oh, I had the Raiders taking Murray, number 4. I just thought the Raiders wanted him where he would be a good fit for the Raiders, but I guess I was listening today and they had Farrell scouted from the national championship game, so it makes perfect sense.
No, I mean, for me, it was questioning, you know, taking Klein and Farrell, but then you kind of look at where the Oakland Raiders were last year statistically, specifically on the defensive side of the ball. They were 19th in the NFL with 3,853 yards passing given up. And then you look at the running side of the ball, they were 30th in the NFL with 2,249 passing yards given up for the game. Again, they were another team that I believe was like 4-12, so defense needed an upgrade.
Yeah, this one definitely caught me off guard. I did not have him in my top 10, by any means, and it's not a slight to him as in any which way, shape, or form. I just thought the Raiders were going to go in for Murray, and I thought that would have made a lot more sense. But with John Gruden and company there, and we've heard a lot of whispers and hushed tones of, there being some discord and issues going on there. We didn't know what the Raiders were going to do here, but they have enough picks in the first round that they could make some moves and jump right back into contention really quick. So this move, we'll have to wait and see about. I think that anything they were really adding in the first round, I thought was helping them out nevertheless. So it's kind of a wait and see attitude on this one. Going to number 5.
It was Devin White, inside linebacker from LSU.
Dog, your thoughts?
I think maybe I had Josh Allen going to the Buccaneers. My draft kind of got flip-flopped all the way through with just with the defensive players, whatever. But it makes a lot of sense. Tampa Bay needs defense with all those good quarterbacks in the NFC South.
Bad?
No, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, you look at Tampa Bay's record, they were 5-11 last year, and I'm looking at their depth chart, at least as it stands on ESPN.com. Now it hasn't been updated with, the draft, but they've got Carl Nassib listed at left outside linebacker, Levante David listed at left inside linebacker, Kevin Minter at right inside linebacker, and then Shaquille Barrett listed as right outside linebacker. Carl Nassib's questionable. Even he'll be fine by the time the season starts. Right, I can't see them starting him. The new guy over him. Levante David, 94 solo tackles last year. All right, they're not replacing him. Kevin Minter must have joined him from the Jets last year because his pictures of a New York Jets jersey. 8 solo tackles left last year. Something tells me no offense to Kevin Minter, but I don't think he's going to be starting once the season starts next year. There's your fill.
Yeah, this pick, I actually got this right because I had Devin White going number 5. So this one made sense to me, and he's going to be an instant impact player for Bruce Arians and everybody down in Tampa. So I like the move. Definitely did.
And then we get to the one that lit up Facebook.
Whoa, this is the
New York
one
area, anyway.
The social media blew up, and especially if you live in the metropolitan area of New York. The New York Football Giants took who, Pat?
Daniel Jones, quarterback from Duke University.
Dog, your thoughts?
Oh, I think I had them taking Devin White, linebacker. I just thought they needed that more. They didn't start out too hot last year, and I know they had offensive line problems, but they also did give up a lot of. They couldn't not stop anybody either. So, and it's just a risky pick. I believe.
Yeah, no, it's totally a risky pick because, yes, you will eventually need to replace Eli Manning sooner probably rather than later. But to me, Daniel Jones isn't it. Like, yes, he played at Duke. I'm sure he's a fine quarterback. He can get the job done. But much like I said with Josh Rosen earlier, to me, he's not a franchise quarterback where you build around him and he's the face of your franchise. To me, their bigger need was at wide receiver because, okay, they've got Sterling Shepard listed on their depth chart. Again, I'm going from ESPN.com. Sterling Shepard listed as one of their starting wide receivers. The other one is Joel Davis, who's currently listed as questionable. After that, it's Corey Coleman and Alonzo Russell as their other wide receivers. Yeah, when I'm playing fantasy football next year, I might give a look at Sterling Shepard, seeing as he's going to be their number one guy and the only guy catching balls other than Saquon Barkley. But you need somebody else to go with Sterling Shepard because they'll just double Sterling Shepard, and good luck throwing to the other guy.
This pick completely threw me off guard. Not going to lie. I know Coach has some very strong feelings. I'm hoping we can get him on a blog about this at least. Because he represents what a lot of Giants fans were thinking, and definitely
the actual bleep.
Yeah, this feels like a reach that with Jones. I mean, he could be the guy. There's no question about it. And anytime you draft a quarterback in the first round, is presumed he's going to take over right away. Is he the guy that's going to be leading the Giants to the Super Bowl? That's the question as fans you have to ask yourself. And there's a lot of question marks, especially when you had Haskins on the board from Ohio State, who wound up going to Washington later in the round, which, I mean, he fell. This was just a real puzzling move. Like, I had Juwan Taylor going to the Giants here because I stand by my statement about this. They need to fix that offensive line. He would have been perfect, but he's in Jacksonville. He fell all the way to the second round, which Jacksonville had one of the best drafts of any teams in the league. Them, Denver, and Washington were my three that really stood out and made a lot of moves. But for the Giants, reaching for Jones, I think they could have got him later, in my opinion. I think he could have gone in the second, maybe third round.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we saw Drew Lock went to Denver in the third round.
Yeah, it was real late.
Yeah, they could have definitely grabbed him later and added another piece to their team earlier that I think they reached for him. I honestly do. Now, Jones could be the guy. Don't get me wrong. He could be.
Yeah.
But I think for where the Giants took him, I thought they reached. And I thought it was a very bad reach for him.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously when he gets on the field, he's going to either make a lot of noise and quiet a lot of haters, or he's going to give them more fuel to their fire. It remains to be seen. So this one is going to be very interesting to watch. And as we go to Jacksonville at number 7.
They took Josh Allen, outside linebacker from Kentucky.
Dog, your thoughts?
This was a good pick for Jacksonville. I had him going number 5 to Tampa Bay, I think. But Jacksonville picked up a good player. I know they have to replace. They traded Fowler last year, so just somebody else that they can add to that defense to improve last year because they weren't very good.
Yeah, no, Dog's right. They weren't very good. Their record was 5-11 last year, and their linebacking core. I can already tell you who he's going to replace. They've got Telvin Smith, 100 solo tackles last year. Okay, it's not him. Then you switch, and it is going to be you got Leon Jacobs, 16 solo tackles. That might be it. They've also got Miles Jack, 75 solo tackles. All right, well, it's not going to be him. You look at Josh Allen's stats last year for when he was in college. He had 84 tackles and 14 sacks. That is a stellar linebacking core if they're all healthy and they're all playing at the same time.
Yeah, Jacksonville, like I said, they made great moves this draft. Absolutely great. I mean, they got Juwan Taylor, who, like I said, I had him going to pick before. They wound up landing him in the second round. He's going to be a steal for them and fix that offensive line. And Josh Allen falling to them at number 7. Jacksonville is going to have a scary defense. I'm telling you, if everybody stays healthy, they're going to get back to where they were a couple seasons ago. And look out, AFC. Enough said there. Going to number 8, Detroit.
It was T.J. Hawkinson, tight end from Iowa.
Dog, your thoughts?
I think they definitely needed to replace that position, just given over their weapon for.
You had just to clarify to our listeners, Dog had about 3 different drafts going, so he's trying to remember which one top of his head here he was going based off of. So we just want to clarify that for our listeners. Continue.
I had them taking that dollar, the Houston defensive tackle. I just thought they needed to replace the defense. I know they lost Hanza as a free agent, but Stafford could always use another weapon. So
this is very true. I mean, to me, it makes all the sense in the world. I mean, I'm looking at their depth chart, again, ESPN.com. They've got Danny Amendola listed at wide receiver, Kenny Galladay listed as another wide receiver. Interestingly enough, here's a name I didn't realize was currently their number 1 tight end, Jesse James, former Pittsburgh Steeler, who had 30 catches for 423 yards and 2 touchdowns last year. By contrast, T.J. Hawkinson had 49 catches for 760 yards and 6 touchdowns. To me, that's an upgrade.
Definitely an upgrade. I mean, I had them taking Rashawn Gary. I thought that would have been a better fit for him. But if you want to give more weapons to Stafford, I mean, he could definitely use them. I mean, I loved Hawkinson enough. I thought the Bills were going to take him, but it didn't work out that way. So Detroit got a great tight end. So I think you expect to see him do some major moves next season. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Speaking of those Buffalo Bills, Pad, who'd they take?
Ed Oliver, defensive tackle from Houston.
Dog, your thoughts?
That's a pretty good pick, I think, for them. They, Kyle Williams just retired, so just to shore up the defense, I had them taking Juwan Taylor, offensive tackle from Florida. I just thought they could always use linemen, but they did good because they can always use defensive linemen too.
Pat?
This is very true. I mean, what I said for the New York Jets applies to the Buffalo Bills as well. There are very good quarterbacks in the AFC East and in the AFC in general. You need a good defensive line to kind of rush the quarterback and really put pressure on him and get him going. I mean, as I look at their depth chart on ESPN.com, one of their defensive tackles is Jordan Phillips, who had 15 solo tackles and 1 sack last year. And then Star Lutulele, apologies if I pronounce that wrong, who had 10 solo tackles and 0 sacks last year. So there was a clear need at the defensive tackle position, and they addressed it big.
I love this move. And like I said, I thought they were going to take Hawkinson to give Josh Allen another weapon, but they did go get Dawson Knox later from Ole Miss in the 3rd round, so they definitely added to the offensive side. But Ed Oliver is a perfect replacement for Kyle Williams. I love this move. I think he's going to be an instant starter and definitely shore up that defensive line. I absolutely loved what the Bills did with this draft. Cody Ford in the 2nd round as for an offensive tackle, and with the upgrades the Bills have done. I'm not just saying this because I'm a member of Bills Mafia. I am saying the Bills are on the upswing in a hurry. I love every move they did for the draft, especially in the first 3 rounds. Devin Singletary will be a nice compliment to LaShawn McCoy in the backfield. So they made some moves, but with Oliver, you definitely want to have a defensive presence on that line. I think he's going to replace Kyle Williams. Obviously Williams has been a legend in Buffalo past few seasons, or through the course of his career, he's been a lifelong Bill. So Oliver's got some big shoes to fill. I think he's going to definitely do it, and I definitely love the move getting Cody Ford to shore up that offensive line. Expecting big things next season. Let's go, Buffalo. And at number 10, there was a trade.
Yeah, initially it was supposed to be the Denver Broncos, but they traded with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who took Devin Bush, inside linebacker from Michigan.
Dog, your thoughts?
This kind of surprised me because Pittsburgh never really trades up, I guess, especially not into the top 10, but they had to replace Ryan Shazier, so
right,
it made perfect sense for them to get a pretty good defensive or linebacker.
This to me is a very interesting move because Pittsburgh last year we all know they were 9-6-1. They've always had a very good defense, but I'm looking at their linebacking core and there's really nothing sticking out to me. It's like, all right, this is the guy they're going to replace in linebacker. They've got Bud Dupree, who had 30 solo tackles and then 5.5 sacks. John Bostic, who had 46 solo tackles with 2.5 sacks. T.J. Watt, who had 50 solo tackles, 13 sacks. So there's going to be a tough competition in Pittsburgh for starting jobs down there.
Yeah, this was kind of surprising because we never really hear about Pittsburgh trading up in the draft. They usually are making moves to kind of maybe get out of position every now and then. You don't really hear about them making a jump. And obviously, going up and getting Bush was a big move, and they are fully sold on what he's going to bring to the table. And obviously, filling the void from Ryan Shazier is a big move for them. And you need somebody to jump in right away and definitely go and make a presence, felt very quickly. So if they're trading up, that proves how much they weigh the value of Bush joining that team. So it's going to be very interesting to watch what happens next season. So before we close out this first segment of the ODPH, Dog, you want to jump in about how Seattle did?
I think Seattle did very well. With their first pick, they got L.J. Collier from defense and from TCU. Of course, they had to replace Frank Clark, who they just traded. They ended up Seattle made a lot of moves. I was like going back and forth. It was just, but they've always seemed to have done that, like move up and down. They got DK Metcalf at the last pick in the 2nd round, which hearing over the weekend, Doug Baldwin might have to retire. So because of previous injuries, and they got a couple linebackers. They got a couple wide receivers. So I think they did a pretty good. think they had a pretty good draft.
Pad, what you think about your Patriots?
I think they had a really good draft. They took N'Keal Harry with their first pick in the first round. Yes, the Patriots actually made a draft pick in the first round. They didn't trade it away. Shocking, I know. Who was a wide receiver at Arizona State. I really like what he could bring to the team. Of course, you've got Julian Edelman, and then they got Demaryius Thomas, who they're bringing in. So this is just kind of like some added insurance, make him maybe play in some certain situations. If Julian and Demaryius stay healthy, if one of them goes down hurt, well, you've got this backup ready to fill the shoes. I like their pick with Juwan Williams, the cornerback from Vanderbilt, and then I'm really sold on Chase Winovich, Michigan defensive end. The man was already answering questions in the New England style from the moment he got drafted. I think there was one where they were like, "Oh, how are you going to really get a hold of the team and really start communicating with the guys?" I'll worry about that when I get there.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like the Patriots did a smart draft, and there was a lot of teams that did do a really solid draft. Dog, who do you think had the best draft overall?
I really liked what the Patriots did. They had a solid draft. They got a quarterback late. That's about it.
Pad?
I think Washington had a really good one. They got Dwayne Haskins, quarterback from Ohio State, Montez Sweat, Terry McLaurin from Ohio State. They really addressed some positions. I feel that they might not be game ready day one, but man, they're going to be.
I have to agree with you. I thought Washington had the best draft out of anybody. I did love the moves Indianapolis did. I love Jacksonville's draft. I love Denver's draft. I love the Bills' draft. I mean, I didn't even talk about after the draft was all said and done, there's unrestricted free agents there. They picked up Tyree Jackson, the quarterback from Buffalo, University of Buffalo, to go, make an attempt for the number 2 position for the quarterback. I mean, I love the moves. The draft is the one time a year where teams, like we say, make or break their futures. If you have a really good draft, you can build a foundation to make a good playoff run for years to come. If you have a really bad draft, it's going to come back and haunt your franchise for many, many seasons. But let us know what you think. How did your team do in the NFL draft? We want to know. Hit us up on the hashtag ODPH. What was your thoughts in the NFL draft? We were going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Jimmy Gazdick from Crimson Brethren and Floodlands, and you're listening to ODPH.
Coming back for the second segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and there was some UFC action this past weekend. UFC Fort Lauderdale, a fight night on ESPN+. 2 fights definitely stood out on this card.
Yes.
The first one was on the main card, Platinum Mike Perry versus Cowboy Alex Oliveira.
Is that what you talk about? They didn't fight. They had a dance-off. Definitely
one of the more entertaining ways to enter the cage.
Yes, I loved it.
And Perry won by decision.
Yep, unanimous decision, score of 29-28, 29-28, and 29-28.
Dog, your thoughts on this fight?
I think it was a war. It was a very exciting fight, kind of like the 2 Conan Bay events last weekend. They were just throwing and trading, and it was close, but it was a good fight.
No, yeah, this for me was the best fight I saw all night. No disrespect to anybody else on the card, but from the moment they walked out to the end of it, the whole thing was just a show, and I loved every minute of it. I mean, I mentioned the dancing. You can find a clip of that online from the broadcast. It was just absolutely outrageously funny too. Just like Dog said, the war between Mike Perry and his opponent, where they're just trading blows left, right, center. And I wasn't too familiar with either fighters going into it, but it was one of those scenarios where, all right, I don't know terribly much about either one of them, but I love the fight.
This was definitely entertaining from the get-go. Perry came out very energetic, dancing, getting very hyped up because he's fighting in his home state.
So he's
singing, if I'm not mistaken, I believe his home state.
He's singing his walkout song where, and that happens in UFC and in mixed martial arts, near his hometown, kind of. He's from Orlando, Florida.
Thank you.
But that's to be expected with UFC. But then his opponent comes out, Alex Oliveira comes out, and it's the music. From what you said when we were watching, he always comes out with it. And then the producer goes, "Oh, cut to camera, whatever," in the truck, I'm presuming. And then it cuts to Mike Perry in the octagon, and he's doing a little jig in the octagon.
Yeah, he definitely was just excited to be there. And this was just a great fight overall because both these guys definitely deliver when they're in a cage. Perry seemed more composed, though, than I've seen him fight in recent memory.
And I think that's something the broadcasters brought up when he was walking out to the octagon, was that, he's singing, he's dancing. Like I think it might have been Dominic Cruz. Dominic Cruz is like, look how calm he looks.
Yeah, he definitely looked very calm. And even when Oliveira was handing him some counter punches, too, that he was really sneaking some good shots in, it definitely seemed that Perry wasn't phased. And it was a very strong win for him over a very game opponent. And I got a feeling that he was calling out Darren Till at the end of this fight. I think that fight's going to happen.
Could be.
That one is going to be must-see TV. Between those two guys throwing hands, look out.
Mm-hmm.
And going to the main event.
Yes.
Pad, break it down.
You had Jack Hermanson defeated Jacare Souza by unanimous decision, 49-46, 48-47, 48-47.
Dog, your thoughts on this fight?
This was not as close as I thought. Hermanson, he threw a lot of punches, and I think he had like 100 just in the second round.
Yeah.
So Souza was pretty good opponent, but I think he just got picked apart.
Pad?
No, I thought it was a good fight. It was definitely like a war back and forth. Not as much of a war as Mike Perry and Alex Oliveira was. But, yeah, I'm kind of with Dog on this one. The score doesn't kind of reflect at least how I scored it at home.
Yeah, this definitely was a very, very tough fight. And this could have been fight of the night. I believe it went to Oliveira and Perry, though. But Souza definitely showed up, and there was a lot riding on this fight, too, because if he won, he was finally guaranteed a title shot. And obviously, I think he was, not overwhelmed with the moment by any means. But I think with so much riding on it that it was a short notice fight with Hermanson jumping in to fight him, because I believe he scheduled to fight Yoel Romero, and then that fight didn't happen. This was an interesting fight to see, and Hermanson definitely rose to the occasion. In fact, the scariest and most wild thing about this fight to me was Hermanson got Jacare on the ground and went for a submission early in the fight. And this is mind-blowing. If you don't follow MMA, Jacare has one of the scariest ground games in all of MMA. Not just the UFC, in all of the MMA. Basically, if you go to the ground with Jacare, you don't get up. You get submitted. The fact Hermanson went to the ground with him was mind-blowing to me. And he could have finished him, honestly, in the first round had he not gone for a submission. But he tried doing it, which, hey, I'm not going to say in the heat of the moment was right or wrong, but that was a gutsy move by Hermanson. Absolutely gutsy. And he weathered the storm, too. Jacare was right in it to the very, very end. But he did lose the decision. Hermanson now is going to move up the ranks. I believe he was number 10 as he stepped into this fight going forward. And he's going to get another top-ranked opponent, too. With Jacare, this will hurt him a little bit from getting a title shot, obviously. But I don't think this is going to knock him completely down the card by any means. He definitely he showed up for the fight. They definitely had a battle. And like I said, this fight will help Hermanson. And with Jacare, we'll have to wait and see what happens moving forward from here. And that's not the only UFC action going on, because last weekend was a great card. This weekend has a great card.
Whoa, boy.
Pad, break it down for us.
Also on the card, you've got Marc-Andre Baralt versus Andrew Sanchez. Walt Harris versus Sergey Spivak, Brad Katona versus Merab Davashvili. Apologies if I butchered that name. Cub Swanson versus Shane Burgos. Derek Brunson versus Elias Theodorou. And Al Iaquinta versus Donald Cowboy. I'll fight anybody Cerrone.
Yeah, this fight definitely is going to be very interesting. I believe it's held up in Ottawa.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, on Saturday, May 4th on ESPN+. Definitely some great fights going on. Cub Swanson is definitely going to be bringing in the featherweight bout against Shane Bergeau. This one could go either way, though. Definitely don't have a favorite in this one. I just know Cub has definitely always been a contender at the featherweight division. And in the co-main, Derek Brunson and Elias Theodorou. This one could go either way. But I know the fight the dog wants to talk about, and he's actually like waving at me, I want to talk right now, is the main event.
Stop throwing things.
Exactly. Cerrone, Iaquinta, dog, break it down for us.
This will be a war, I think. Just Cerrone's on a hot streak, and I just love watching him fight. He's just one of my main guys, but I think it'll be a good fight.
It's definitely going to be a good fight, but it's also not going to be an easy one for Cerrone. I mean, I'm looking at the record for his opponent, Al Iaquinta. His most recent fight was a win against Kevin Lee by unanimous decision at a UFC on Fox card back in December. Then previously he lost to Habib back at UFC 223. He's got win, and then he was on a kind of a hot streak where he beat Diego Sanchez, Jorge Masvidal, Joe Lozon, Ross Pearson, and Rodrigo Dam. So it's going to be a good fight. It's also not going to be an easy fight for either fighter.
Yeah, this fight is definitely going to be fireworks.
Teeth are going to go flying.
No question about this. Cerrone, like Dog alluded to, is on a hot streak since returning to 155. And the one thing that I notice he's doing is he's not getting out to that lazy start he has.
Yes.
I shouldn't call it lazy, but he always...
Slow start.
Yeah, he always comes very hesitant out of the gate. I don't know if he's trying to figure out timing or what such. And then it usually takes him a little while to get going, but once he gets going, he's scary. And like I said, his punch-kick combos are second to none in MMA.
I'll say his last fight was against Alexander Hernandez, he being Cerrone. Alexander Hernandez, he won by TKO with a head kick and punches, where it was, his return to lightweight, and then he won Performance of the Night and Fight of the Night.
Yeah, he definitely put on a display in that fight. And to take out a young and up-and-coming star like Hernandez was definitely a statement win.
Yes.
So, obviously, he's making his way back to the 155 title contention. This is going to be a definite stepping stone if he can get over Iaquinta. But take nothing away from Iaquinta, though. Iaquinta went to deep water with Habib.
Yeah.
And that was the short notice fight, too.
Yep.
With the whole Conor McGregor, we've already talked about the incident in New York. This is where Iaquinta stepped in, and he definitely held his own ground. I mean, he was defeated, but he definitely started landing some shots in that fourth round, if memory serves me right. So this one, Iaquinta is no joke. I mean, he's coming off the big win against Kevin Lee. Mm-hmm. So this one has definitely title implications down the road. Whoever wins on this, you could say definitely shoots up the rankings. If Cerrone wins, this, I think, is going to help propel him to a possible number one contendership. If Iaquinta wins, he's going to be right in that discussion too. Take nothing away. But I think Cerrone has a little more on this fight than Iaquinta at this point, in my opinion. Either way, I can't give you an honest prediction. I really can't. If you're going to make me say one, though, I'm going to say Cerrone. He just looks like a different fighter since returning to 155. I could see this going decision, which for me as a fight fan is going to be absolutely scary, because this is a five-minute round fight. 25 minutes of just strikes.
So they're going to be rock'em sock'em robots.
Yeah, this could be a potential fight of the night, fight of the year candidate. Take my word for it. If you haven't seen either of those fighters fight, both those guys come to the cage and both those guys bring it. Mm-hmm. And like I say, take nothing away from Iaquinta. I'm not saying he has no shot to win this. I think he has a very good shot to win this. But Cerrone right now is on fire. He looks great since he's been more composed and his starts and coming, jumping right out the gate. He has looked so good fighting. This one, I think he's got the edge, but man, I am not blinking away from my TV when this fight's on Saturday night. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What is your thoughts on Cerrone versus Iaquinta this weekend? We want to know. And what's your thoughts on UFC Fort Lauderdale this past weekend? Hit us up. Let us know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward, no steps back.
Hey, this is Vince the Common Man Ciatoy, local MMA fighter, telling you to keep on listening to the ODPH, the 607's up-and-coming newest podcast.
We knew right where we'd be, floating on the airwaves, you see. It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward and no steps back. We knew right where we'd be.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. And the NBA playoffs are in full effect. Mm-hmm. But the matchup that a lot of fans have been waiting for has finally started. Golden State versus Houston. Mm-hmm. This one, game one, was definitely a highlight for a few different reasons.
Had fireworks.
had some fireworks. Pat, you want to break it down for us?
Of course, everyone, if you are familiar with basketball or recent history, knows of the rivalry or budding rivalry. Maybe it's a full-blown one. I don't know.
I think it's a full-blown one at this point.
I'll leave that one for the historians. Between the Houston Rockets and the Golden State Warriors. Maybe it's this generation's Bulls, Detroit Pistons. Maybe it's not. We'll see. But you had Game 1 of the Western Conference semifinals last night taking place in Oakland, California, where the Golden State Warriors won by a final score of 104-100. But the final score is not the story, Ken.
No, what is the story?
Excuse me. It is the fouls or lack thereof, fouls as alleged by the one Houston Rockets.
Yeah, this one was kind of, I don't want to say marred with controversy because I don't think that's the right word, but the response that we're hearing from anybody who's seen the game is there was a lot of complaints about the refereeing in this game. Dog, you have any thoughts on this?
I just think these two teams are have been notorious, maybe, or I'd say so, for getting calls and not getting calls. So it's kind of puzzling to me. I mean, Houston was complaining, but James Harden's like the king of trying to draw fouls that are not really fouls and gets them called for him. So I don't think he really has much to stand on.
It's understandable for him or any player in the NBA to, they miss calls. It's human nature. You hear it in baseball, you hear it in football, you hear it in hockey. But to James Harden and the Houston Rockets, I would say, look at the box score, my guy, before you start throwing shade at the referees. Houston as a team was 31 of 74 from the field. Maybe if you didn't miss 43 shots the entire game, you might have won the game. If you didn't miss, they were 14 of 47 from three. Maybe if you didn't miss 33 shots from three, you might have won. And I mean, James Harden specifically, he had the final line of 9 of 28 from the floor, 4 of 16 from three. Yeah, okay, congratulations, 13 of 14 from three. But then he only had 4 defensive rebounds, nothing on offense, with 6 assists, 3 steals for a total of 35 points. Look at I can understand you're frustrated with the refs and you're not happy with it. But at the end of the day, your team needed to shoot a little bit better.
Yeah, you can't really blame refereeing on this. I mean, you can and you can't, but why? I mean, teams get calls and teams don't get calls all the time. It happens. It's human nature.
Yeah.
This is something that you can't harbor one game on, but I understand their argument because, I mean, they've been, since this rivalry has begun, there's been a lot of, oh, well, they got calls, we didn't, nonsense. Just a lot of, complaining, I guess. But this happens in sports all the time. Human nature, you either get a call or you don't. And this is an era where you have to worry about flopping for fouls, which is, me as a fan, I kind of struggle with like when you have to flop and fake for fouls. Like you're there to play a sport. Either you get the call or you don't.
So funnily enough, Golden State finished with 24 fouls, whereas Houston finished with 21.
Yeah, I mean they called the game, I would say, fairly even. And like the one thing about Harden, which I mean statistically, he drew 95 fouls on 3-point attempts during the regular season, according to ESPN here. This is kind of just wild to see that, okay, if he's drawing fouls, okay, he didn't get one on that final shot when the Rockets were down by 3. It happens. Sometimes it's not going to happen. Sometimes you just have to play the game and let it go. But I think this just goes back to how intense this rivalry has become. Because Golden State, for being the super team that they are, hasn't really had, and let's be honest about this, until recently, a true rival on this level that can go blow for blow with them.
Well, I think it's this isn't my take. I saw this over the weekend. I don't think it's necessarily Golden State is stumbling, as some people would put it. I think it's just the rest of the NBA is finally catching up to them.
I agree.
And you saw this with the LA Clippers. The LA Clippers a few years ago would have gotten blown out in 4 games the way Milwaukee blew out their first round opponent in the most hilarious way possible. Because let's be honest, Golden State, as we look at the starting 5, is a video game starting 5 where you're turning off the budgets, and you turn on forced trades. Draymond Green had 14 points, Kevin Durant 35, Steph Curry had 18, Andre Iguodala had 14, Klay Thompson had 13. That's a video game starting five. Like, you can't let that starting five get into double figures, all of them.
No, definitely not. You have to play defense, and you have to really hold them in. You're not going to shut them out. There's no way it's going to happen.
No.
But you have to hold them back from what they usually put up to hang with, and you have to trade blows with them like in a boxing match. Houston is on that level with them if they're all playing at that high pace. Harden, when he has great games, he's on. Chris Paul, when he's healthy. I mean, if you take a look at last season, Houston had him on the ropes until Chris Paul got hurt. And obviously, Houston, if Paul was healthy, I think would have won that series. I really do. So this season, there's a lot of emotion going into these series. And I think just the fact that they're shifting the focus onto the refereeing, I don't think is the right play, in my opinion. You're going against your rivals. It's going to be heated. There's going to be a lot of calls that you're going to say we should have gotten. There's going to be some that you say, definitely should not have been getting called. Either way, it just boils down to how heated this rivalry is going to get. But the focus isn't on the refereeing. It's you have to show up and play every night. You have to come with your A game every night. And the fact that there's a question of, did they flop for a foul or not? I mean, I think that just takes away from the game and just how truly good both these teams are.
No, yeah, Houston can absolutely beat Golden State, like you said. They had them on the ropes last season. It's just that the odds and everything went in Golden State's favor. Houston can beat Golden State, but I think the thing that is kind of the detriment to them is I think they can't let this whole narrative, it's the refs dominate. Like, okay, that can be the case for game one. Talk about it was the refs for game one. Game two, flip the page. It's about you guys. You guys got to play better. You can't be harping on the refs the entire game.
No, by no means, especially when you have Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, who are both banged up right now.
Yeah.
They're not at 100%. You have to play your best game. And for Houston, you need to split before you go back home to Houston. You can't go down 0-2.
No.
Game two is now turned into a must-win.
Yeah.
And you can't blame it on the referees. You have to show up and you have to finish. You have to close it out. And then go back to Houston and then see where you go from there. I mean, that's the biggest story going into the next round of the playoffs right now, by far, is you finally have the big heavyweight matchup you want. Who's going to be the one to take it home? Because I think whoever wins this series is going to be the Western Conference representative.
Oh, more than likely.
Without question. I mean, there's nothing against the other teams.
Denver, Portland, to name a few.
Yeah, but this is just where it's going. Like, this is the team. Golden State set the benchmark. Houston is trying to steal the crown. What's going to happen next season? I mean, everybody's so worried about where Kevin Durant's going. It's now becoming, I don't know if it's become an official distraction, but it's getting enough talk that you have to think it is.
If it's a distraction, they're doing a very good job at hiding it.
Right, but Golden State's such a professional organization, they're not going to let it, disrupt their plans. They're just not.
No.
But they have to finish and they have to do their job. And then whoever comes out of the East is going to come out of the East. But for this, Houston can't keep mentioning about the refs. Yeah, the refs did make bad calls. But you know what? That happens in every game.
Mm-hmm.
Every game.
It's human error.
You got to just deal with it, and you got to come back the next night. And if Houston's really that good, you should beat Golden State, especially if Steph Curry and Klay Thompson are banged up. You should take full advantage of that, and you should win game two without question. But hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What is your thoughts on the Warriors and Rockets series? Who do you think is going to come out on top? Who do you think is going to come out on top in the Eastern Conference? We want to know. Hit us up. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Brian Wolf from Fair City Fire. You are listening to ODPH, the greatest podcast in Binghamton.
Woo!
Hot lips touching, cool thighs feeling, shawty running up, her spine spinning, long day to a long night, but I'm not stopping till I get it right.
Back for the final segment on this edition of the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. Hashtag ODPH podcast. Pat, kick us off that local minute.
Well, of course, we're going to talk a little bit of Binghamton Rumble Ponies news. Looking at their upcoming schedule, they've had some games in the past, the past week or so, but it's been kind of a mess, as anyone who lives in the northeast of the United States knows. Playing an outdoor sport this time of year is a little rough. Looking at their schedule upcoming, though, they've got a game on Monday the 29th, 6:35 against Akron. They follow that up with a game on Tuesday the 30th, also against Akron, game time 6:35, where they close out the series on Wednesday the 1st of May against Akron with a game time of 6:35. Then they go on a little bit of a road trip before they return home on May 10th for a 3-game series against New Hampshire and then a 3-game series against Altoona. More information, bingrp.com.
Definitely support those Rumble Ponies when you get the chance. Hopefully the weather clears out and we get some games in finally.
Yes.
It's very, very cold here in the Northeast with a lot of rain and snow, so hopefully that gets cleared up, especially because we're going into May.
Mm-hmm.
Dog, why don't you start rounding those bases for us?
Oh, Chase Elliott won the Talladega race yesterday.
Talking some NASCAR.
It's a big race.
Oh, yeah. Just snapped it. It was the first Chevy win since last October, and
wow,
just breaking that Penske-Gibbs stranglehold like I talked about in my parlay points. So it was good Chevy victory, and I'm happy.
I'll say now, I did see one highlight from the race. It's not a Talladega race without some wild and crazy wreck. I did see one guy went down the back straightaway and flipped end over end multiple times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the safety features they put into those cars that really keep those guys safe is astounding and definitely noteworthy.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy to see. I mean, because you see those horrific car crashes, and it's just like, oh my.
Yeah.
But just thankfully, all the drivers are safe when they're coming out. So definitely, it's something to watch with NASCAR too. And like Dog was alluding to, he does talk about this on his Parlay Points column, which you can check on OchoDuroParlayHour.com.
Mm-hmm.
Pat, what you got?
I'm going to talk a little bit of baseball because the New York Yankees are playing amazing baseball with essentially a AAA team. As we look at the standings as we record, they're currently in second place with a record of 17-11. They're 1.5 games behind the Tampa Bay Rays, who are in first with an 18-9 record. Now, why do I say they're essentially a AAA team? That is no disrespect to the team, but let's face it, the number of injuries they have on that team would field an all-star team. Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, Didi Gregorius, Miguel Andujar, the list just goes on and on and on and on and on. They're on a 3-game win streak where they beat the San Francisco Giants yesterday by a final score of 11-5. But they're batting with DJ LeMahieu, Luke Voit, Brett Gardner, Gary Sanchez, Gleyber Torres. Who of course are they're expected to be starting. They're the guys who are in the majors. But then you've got guys like Tyler Wade, their pitcher Domingo Germán, Gio Urshela, and then Mike Tauchman, all guys getting called up from some of those guys getting called up from AAA and just playing the way they've been playing and just hitting the way they've been hitting. It's really something to see.
It definitely is. I mean, how the Yankees are pulling this off, especially with how banged up their lineup is. I mean, just looking at the standings, just the fact they're still in contention like this is crazy.
Also, you mentioned standings. I'd be remiss, Yankees fan, if I didn't mention Boston second to last with a record of 11-17.
Never a bad thing to mention that.
Nope.
But it's a long way to go for baseball, so I'm not counting the Red Sox out by any means. But baseball is going to be definitely getting fun to watch as the season is now progressing in its first month. So definitely stay tuned for that. So let me close out around the bases here with kind of a little local minute tie.
Okay.
Now, on the Binghamton Bulldogs Facebook page, they have made it known that they are interested in putting in a bid to host the 2020 ABA All-Star Game.
Ooh.
So that means that they would have the exhibition game here plus the dunk and three-point competition. One Bulldog would be involved in each competition. I think this is a great thing to do, and I would love to see this here. We talk Binghamton Bulldogs all the time. We've had Jim Evans on the show a few times, either on a blog or interview. We definitely are big Bulldog supporters, and I think if we could get the All-Star Game here in Binghamton, that would be huge. BinghamtonBulldogs.com or check their Facebook page out. We'll definitely have the links up on the ODPH website. So definitely show some support. Definitely let them know if you want the game here in Binghamton. I would love to see the ABA All-Star Game here. The ABA is definitely fun to watch. And, if we get the All-Star Game here, it's a must-see event. Enough said. That's all we got for this week. So for Nostradamus Edwin Fortunato.
Good night and good luck.
For Padawan J.
Thank you.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. #ODPH podcast. See you next time.